AM 1160 and 101.1 FM. And in the studio with me this morning, Luann Zach and Josh Krug, the Indiana County officials. We're talking today about housing, and I asked you over, Josh, for that specific topic because we keep hearing, that with urban coming and bringing the jobs, and hopefully with more jobs to follow from other companies, Indiana County just might be seeing a little population boom coming up. We'd like that, wouldn't we?
We absolutely would like that. Thanks for having us, Todd. And I brought Luann with me. She's the right person, here to talk about housing as well. Mm-hmm. We're excited that there's, 200 some jobs that are being created there with the urban development. And we know that that's coming this year. It's coming online this fall. Yeah. And with that, those folks are either going to, one of three things. They're either going to commute here from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. They're going to move here, or they already live here, and there's going to be a job for somebody. Yeah. And the way that we see it is that all three of those scenarios are good for the county. Absolutely. If we end up with the in-migration, people moving here, that may be best. People investing, buying a home, or filling a rental property, for economic development and those things. Mm-hmm. But we're hopeful that we have housing. We know that we have housing for them to move into. And we're hopeful that we have affordable housing and that we can get them into the right thing, whether it's a rental or whether they can buy.
Luann, Zach, let's talk a little bit about the housing situation as a whole before the urban announcement and before we were anticipating more people moving into Indiana County. What's the overall picture for the county look like in terms of available housing for people who want to find a good place to live?
There is available housing, Todd. The county in 2014 adopted a housing plan that we had undertaken the study beginning in 2013. So we're about 5 years into our plan. So things were a little different back then. Back in 2013, 2014, keep in mind, the university had its surge of housing where it was building all the new student housing closer to campus. And we also had at the same time a little boom going on because of the Marcellus shell industry. Yeah. That had an impact on things. The landlords wanted to rent to the students, and they were focusing on the workers that were coming in on a temporary basis. Mm-hmm. Now things have kind of shifted where the university population has gone down. And a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of the private landlords throughout Indiana Borough and White Township have lost their students to rent to, and there's many vacant units available for that. And also the Marcellus shell industry, of course, didn't stay at a high level as it had been. Hopefully urban will be one of those industries coming in that'll help us get back on track with that. And at the same time, I do think just the overall job market at that time was a lot different than it is now. Yeah. So we do have affordable housing. Programs that we do have are Inhabit Indiana is a program being offered through Indiana Borough where they're helping closing costs for homeowners purchasing homes in the borough. There also is, the county has, now we don't have a homeowners program at this time, but we are working on one that we would like to get underway through the county planning office in the next year or so. So we'll have more details on that later. But right now we do have an accessibility program for our disabled residents, and they can be any age, and it's very popular. And when I say popular, I mean there's a lot of need for it. We have a waiting list.
Oh, that's good. The interesting thing about the whole housing situation or the urban situation as a whole is one of the reasons urban is located here or has decided to come here is because of the access with the highways and the improvements to the roadways around Indiana County. That not only helps them to get their products in and out, it also helps people who can commute to work at that facility or at others around the area. It's a lot easier to move around Indiana County now than it has been.
Yeah, and as we were preparing for this interview, I was looking at the housing plan and some of the information in there, and there's some really rich information regarding commuters and commuter data, okay? And we have a healthy a healthy commuter flow, inflow and outflow. This was a 2012 data, that we were looking at, but we were looking at 20,000 people from the county leaving and roughly 17,000 people coming for work. So that shows that we have a desirable place to live, but we also have jobs here that people are coming here to work for. And to your point, Todd, the roads are there for them to get there. And despite the high number of cross-county commuters, the average commute for Indiana County residents is only 23 minutes. It's shorter than the average for Pennsylvania at 25 minutes and the average for the United States. So there is opportunity for people to not only live here, but also work and play and get around here.
The interesting thing about that is that 23 minutes in Pittsburgh is different from 23 minutes in Indiana County. 23 minutes in Indiana County is going to get you 23 miles.
Yes.
In Pittsburgh, it might get you a mile and a half.
Absolutely. I mean, and to that point, we are getting a reach from other counties, Somerset, Westmoreland, Cambria County, Jefferson County, Armstrong County, all of our neighboring counties. Folks are coming in here from, and we're hopeful that as there's job opportunities here, that they may decide to move here and actually live here more permanently. As Luann was saying, there's a rental market, but there's also now some houses that are going to become available, potentially even former student rentals that could be converted back, to single family residences.
Actually become residential owned properties. Yeah. And in Indiana Borough, that's one thing. But now we're talking, Luann, about Blairsville. We're talking about Clymer and all of the smaller communities around Indiana County. Some of those are pretty big communities on a comparative basis, but there's Coral Grayston. There's Blacklick, there's Josephine. As we head down Route 119, we head up Route 119, and we're going to Plumville. We're going to Marion Center. And all of those small towns have the opportunity to have people moving into them if the housing is available. And you have a pretty good idea of what housing is available where in Indiana County, don't you?
Well, I would leave that more to the realtors, but there is if somebody wants to go to any of those smaller towns that you just mentioned, there's a lot of housing stock available for them to choose from. Some of it may need more work than others, and I think there are programs through the local banks that will assist them, and I would encourage anybody to check with not only the local banks, but with the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, because they do have home buyer, home repair type programs to assist people with lower interest rates.
Yeah, and those houses that might need some work, that represents an opportunity for somebody that can get a house really cheap, and particularly if they know of somebody or they are somebody who's handy, why they can get themselves they can get a gem.
And I can speak to that for a second, Todd, because actually in the planning section, as you know, I've been on talking about the blighted property inventory at times, and that's a study that we're undergoing, still currently working through it, but we're doing that in conjunction with the housing and community development section, and we're doing it to implement the housing plan. We're looking at the housing stock as a whole, and we're trying to find generally, what's it like? What quality are we in? Is there blight? Where is it at, and to what degree? And the communities that you mentioned are part of our pilot study, actually. I think all of the ones that you mentioned are. And we're underway in that study enough that I can speak to it that generally speaking, I mean, there may be some properties that need a little work, as you said, but they may have not even made our blighted study. A lot of these communities, I wouldn't call them disparate. I wouldn't call them full of dilapidated houses. I think that they just have a housing stock that is there, ready to move in, and as you said, is an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I can see a young family that doesn't have a lot of money. Now they move here because dad and mom both got jobs at Urban, for instance, or somewhere else in Indiana County. One of the things about this whole thing is that if somebody is going to get a job at Urban, they might have a job somewhere else right now. Somebody's going to have to fill that job. So that whole shifting population can really be an opportunity. And even if you're not making a ton of money right now, you can get yourself into some pretty good housing. around Indiana County. Yeah. All right. Very good.
Absolutely.
I'm
Thanks for
liking
having
the
us.
housing situation in Indiana County right now. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Absolutely. And then the jobs that are going to become available here, again, as prepping for this, I noticed that manufacturing over the 10-year period, and manufacturing, transportation and warehousing, and wholesale trade had all been down for a 10-year period. And this is an opportunity, like you said, not just urban, maybe other ancillary industries as well, and the shifting in jobs and stuff like that. There could be an upswing, an uptick in those job opportunities.
What are some of the resources? Are there resources for folks who want to learn more about housing in Indiana County? Is there a central house that folks can go to, or a central website or something that is going to direct people to learn about housing in Indiana County?
Yes, I would refer them to our county planning office's website, and we have our housing plan listed on there. Also, they're always free to either email us or to call us at the number on that website, and can ask for Luann, can ask a general question, and we're more than happy to help them with their specific need and question and direct them in the right place.
Terrific stuff. All right. Well, thanks both for coming in today. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having us, Todd.
Thank
Josh,
you.
we're actually going to have you back later this week, aren't we?
Thursday, we'll talk about the census, I believe.
Census.
The ever-important 2020 census.
Yeah, we'll emphasize how important that census is, too.
I wanted to get a plug in.
Very good.
Thanks.
Very good. Thank you both.